I believe it's beneficial to choose political leaders from among everyday citizens because they simply perform better. For example, a decade ago, my country, Taiwan, elected our very first female president. To be more specific, her name is Dr. Chen, and she came from a very poor family background. Because of her background, she really understood the root causes of a lot of people's problems. In addition, people felt close to her whenever they saw her. They were always willing to share their opinions and suggestions about the country. So she listened to the general public really carefully and evaluated the most feasible ideas and turned them into great policy. As a result, we now have some successful public welfare policy that take care of the old ones and the young ones in our societies, and we really appreciate her.
The university announces that evening study sessions for all introductory science courses will be introduced, and the woman agrees. She thinks it's a great idea. First of all, she says that this will be good for students who are busy during the day. Actually, she says a lot of students cannot go to the office hours during midday. For example, she has lab work and part-time work during the day, so she often cannot go to those hours. That's why she loves these new 7 p.m. evening sessions. It's just more flexible for her. Secondly, she says that she loves group-based learning. To elaborate, she says that last semester she had a study group for the chemistry class that she had. This group helped her understand difficult subjects, and she really got a lot of benefit from this kind of peer learning. She wished that more and more people can be benefited from this kind of evening study sessions, these kind of group learning. That's why she totally supports this announcement. Thanatosis is the defensive behaviors that animals can have when they remain complete motionless to mimic death. And the professor explains it with one example. First, he mentions the opossum. He also talks about the phrase playing possum. This phrase was created because when possums are threatened by dogs, they collapse, they don't move fast, they don't fight off large predators either. Actually, the professor mentions that their bodies shifts to a rigid state. Their eyes are half closed. It seems like their nervous system is reacting. In addition, the opossums release foul odor. They appear to be decaying. They appear to be dead. It seems like they're unsafe to eat. Therefore, predators will become uncertain. They prefer live prey. They don't want to eat dead animals. So in the end, the opossum avoids being killed. And this adaptation passes on to generations of opossums or possums. That's how they survive. The professor explains two consequences of desertification. First, she mentions agricultural decline, and she uses the farmers in China as an example. These farmers harvest wheat and some other cash crops. However, after desertification, the yield of those crops shrinks, and this causes their family to suffer. This is a big problem in northern part of China. Secondly, the professor mentions that after the crops fail, the communities that plant those crops also shrinks. This pushes people to move out of the communities, and she uses the people in the Sahara Desert as an example. She also talks about how this movement fuels social conflict. This disrupts traditional ways of life. So the government there has to allocate resources to help those people in need. This puts another layer of strain in the entire society. That's how the professor explains the two consequences of desertification.